22. So today, as Dean has said, we're going to be talking about some of the myths surrounding construction and the built environment and how we want to bust those myths. So we have a number of panelists joining me today. So we have Beth, and I'll get people to introduce themselves a bit later on. So we have Beth, who's working for Morgan Sindall as a assistant site manager. We have Nicole, who's a building surveyor working for Southwark Council. Elisa, working for Schneider as an HR manager. And last but by no means least, Alex, who's a director with Copperstone. Before we get started, I'll ask Dean to play a short video that we got that we've produced shortly before Christmas, showcasing people working locally in South London, and also you'll see some of our panelists that are here tonight in the video. So just show you this short video and then we'll get into the discussion. So Dean, if you can play that, that would be fantastic.
I am Nicole Bryan and I'm currently working as a communal repairs technical officer, but I also do building surveying work part-time. I fell into it, so I started off as an apprentice doing the business administration. I got the opportunity to do the H&C. Doing the H&C, I was the assistant technical officer. I carried that role out for 2 years and was qualified with the H&C, and then decided to go on to do the building surveying degree, which was part-time and took 5 years. So I've just qualified July this year. I think what drew me into construction, there's so many layers. It is literally like an onion. As you continue to play, you peel back a layer, you see that there's another avenue. There's not just quantity surveyors, there's building surveyors, then you've got the mechanical engineering, and there's so many ways of progression. You won't just stay at the same level.
My name is Elio, I'm 20 years old and I'm a year-out quantity surveyor at Morgan Sindall. I'm just shadowing the senior quantity surveyors there, dealing with small tasks and just learning really.
So we often go out on site, but whenever I do go out on site, I have to make sure I have the right PPE. It's important to wear high-vis, goggles, gloves and a safety helmet.
So the only qualification I really have within like the industry is a CSCS card, and that's quite basic to get. But I'm currently on my 3rd year at university, doing quantity surveying and commercial management, and hopefully by the end of, not this year, the year after, I'll have a degree.
My name's Alex Hennessy and I work for Copperstone Projects based in central London. So I got into construction and working in the built environment. A friend recommended a role as a property developer working within a big development company. It was completely at odds with what I was doing at the time. I was working in Kew Gardens randomly, and I went in and I was shown the ropes, loved it from the first day I walked in, and gone on from there really. I think the most important thing with any role within construction is commitment. You can gain the competency, there's lots of firms, lots of different ways to travel within construction and lots of different ways to get the competency. But I think if you've got commitment and the right sort of attitude, then that's a great starting place.
My name is Beth and I'm a graduate site manager working for Morgan Sindall Construction. So construction is a really, really good route to go down. We're always going to need houses, schools, hospitals, roads, infrastructure itself. It's a really solid industry. If you get in there and if you do well, you'll get rewarded for it. If you get in from any level, there are opportunities for you to grow within to become more of a management role, or you might want to skill up in a trade. There are so many opportunities out there in construction. And it's one of the industries that remained open during the pandemic. So if you're interested in doing a hands-on role which is varied, then I'd definitely give construction a go.
So we know the construction industry to be very male dominated, and I want that to change within the next 10 years. I'm already starting to see a big shift in that. The RICS official CEO is now a woman. So there's so many ways of progression, and I just feel like if it continues to do that, by getting people like myself, minority backgrounds, females, males, anyone of any social demographic background to kind of get involved and get stuck in.
Olivia Crilly, I'm a management trainee at Vistry Partnerships. Personally for me, obviously women in construction, it's a rarity and a myth that women aren't good in construction or women shouldn't be in construction, because from what I've learned already from being in my job, there's so many women that are amazing at what they do, because women can bring different attributes that men don't bring, and it's so much more helpful. And I think it's really important to help get more women in construction, and it will make the industry better in the future.
My name is Aisha. Officially, I'm a management trainee at Vistry Partnerships. I literally just attended my company's open evening, and then I successfully passed the interview stages that followed. Representation for me is a big thing. I feel like it's one thing for someone to say to you, oh, you can do it because X, Y, Z, but I feel like seeing somebody that's like you and also like interacting with them takes it to a whole nother level. It makes it more realistic, more achievable. I'd also say I feel like there needs to be more genuine entry points, ones that are not daunting, because I feel like sometimes when you do go for apprenticeships, you open it and be like, you need, I don't know what it is now, 5 GCSEs, X, Y, and a lot of people don't have that because a lot of people are not good at exams. However, you do find that there are people who they're teachable, they have open and willingness to learn, and it also makes them good candidates. I feel like in construction, I feel like there should be more accessible routes where people are able to prove themselves based on professional competence later down the line, as opposed to you need to have this beforehand. I don't think it's necessary.
I know before I started in construction, you walk past construction sites, there's the hoarding, it's massive and it's keeping you out because obviously, you know, it's an area where you shouldn't just wander into a construction site if you don't know what's right and how to walk around it. But those physical boundaries shouldn't translate to sort of actual boundaries to getting into construction. And, you know, we need to get out, and people in construction that, you know, have the opportunity to share their experiences just like this. I think it's really important so that people know it's an avenue that they can go down.
I personally think it's really important to promote construction in schools when people are around 16 to 18, because personally for me, even though I grew up in construction, it was never really promoted as a job. It was always, oh, you're going straight to uni, but it wasn't considered to do a degree in construction alongside working as well at the same time. And if I'd have known that when I was 18, I 100% would have gone straight into construction.
Everything's new every day, nothing is the same, and because of that, it makes me want to wake up in the morning to say, okay, what big problem have I got now? Okay, maybe today there's a roof leak that's caved in and it's affected a few properties, or maybe tomorrow it's a big burnout. It's just something new, and that keeps the drive going because you know that you will always be learning. You never stay at the same level.
The thing I love the most about this industry is the positive change we have on this world. I feel like the construction industry is what drives this world forward. I guess it makes changes. We all need houses to live in and we're building them. We all need hospitals to go to and we build them, schools, everything. We build everything. And I feel like that's what I love about it, the fact that I'm a part of that change, I'm a part of making the world a better place.
Thank you, Dean. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour and shown you some of our passion about working in construction and the built environment. And I know one of the reasons that I love working in it is because no matter what level you start at, there's opportunities to progress, whether that's through the apprenticeship route, through the more academic route, wherever. You can start off as a labourer and end up as a site manager, or come in as a building surveyor and progress on up. So yeah, and I think when we talk about construction, the built environment, the general public often think about working outside in the mud and the rain, all the weathers. They tend to think of the traditional trades, so electrician, plumber, carpenter, and there's so much more within construction and the built environment. There are over 150 different roles within the sector. So let's introduce our panel. So you've had a bit of an introduction from some of them through the video. So Elisa, maybe you could just introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about you.
Yes, thank you, Amanda. Absolutely love to. My name is Elisa Herbert. I'm the HR manager for Schneider GB. We are a tier 1 facade contractor in the London market. We've been working over 35 years in London and in the construction industry. And yes, I always like to say we are shaping the skyline of London, and that is such a fascinating thing to do and say, actually. And I personally, studied actually HR management, and after graduation, I was very drawn into working with engineers. And so I now have probably almost 10 years of working with engineers and in the construction industry. Used to work with a steel company as well, and now I have a variety of people around me in our teams, from, yes, people coming from the tools, scaffolding, a variety of things in supervision, and then also graduate site managers who studied architecture or civil engineering. So there's so much knowledge coming from different places, which is something I find very fascinating in HR, and seeing all the different CVs coming in with the backgrounds people have and how they kind of get into construction.
Thanks, Eliza. And can you just sort of give us an overview of what do you mean by facades? Because some people in the audience might not realise what that's all about.
I understand. It is a very niche thing. So facades are practically the envelope of the building. So we do everything, or a facade can be everything from a window, can be parts of the balcony. You have often door packages involved as well. And it's basically the entire cladding envelope of a building. So very often you see nowadays buildings that have aluminium panels mixed in with the glass. So that is something that is also a facade, or a rain screen, or some kind of like sun protection. There's so many different elements to a facade that you need to take into account. So in everything is a facade. And I like to say the facade is kind of like the makeup of a building, and it's the first thing you see when you walk around and you see a new build. That's the facade basically that makes it so interesting and makes the architectural dream come true.
Brilliant, thank you, Eliza. And great to think that Schneider are influencing the skyline of London.
It is.
Beth, I know that you didn't necessarily have the traditional route into construction. Can you maybe just sort of give us an overview of your career path so far?
Yeah, so I left school, sorry, that's my phone, bad timing. I left school and I went on to do a geography degree, because kind of just classic, what was my favourite subject at school? Geography. I'm going to do a degree in it. And didn't really kind of think beyond that as to what career I wanted to do. I just wanted to do geography. And then throughout my degree, I got more exposed to planning, because I was in the geography and planning school. So pandemic struck, and I decided I was going to do a master's in infrastructure planning. And then I did infrastructure planning. I didn't really enjoy it. So I wanted to kind of move from the planning aspect. It wasn't necessarily infrastructure that I had a problem with. I just didn't want to be sat behind a desk all day, because I didn't think that was very me after doing that for 4 years at university. So I decided that construction, and more specifically being on site, was a route that I wanted to go down. And that kind of led me to site management. And so then from there, I started to apply to loads of companies, and thankfully Morgan Sindall accepted me. And yeah, the rest is history, I suppose.
So what is it you love about site management in construction and built environment?
I think the main thing that I love about construction, and more specifically site management, is I get a mixture of working in the office and working out on site. So I can kind of, depending on how I'm feeling and what I've been told to do, switch and change between, you know, going out and being really active and proactive on site, or, you know, having a day that's more in the office. So in that sense, it's really varied. Not only that, but I love the people that you meet. You get so many characters on a construction site. Everyone is completely different, and yeah, you just have a lot of people to learn from.
Great, thanks, Beth. And Nicole, you've just recently graduated, having done an apprenticeship for Southwark Council. So what initially got you into building surveying?
So I fell into building surveying by chance. So Southwark Council as a whole, they had very much difficulties trying to fill a role. So it drove the opportunity to bring in to do H&C. So in doing that, I started to do the H&C in construction. So from my understanding, construction was just electrician, carpenter, bricklayer, someone that just does the tools. So to hear that there was a course that I didn't have to go out and get mucky and go in and, you know, do the whole full works on site, I thought, okay, let me see and ease into the construction industry in itself. Did the H&C, I loved it. And something just said to me, Nicole, why don't you research a bit more? What roles are there? What opportunities, what career developments are there? And I was torn between the QS and the building surveyor. But what kind of influenced me to be a building surveyor was I saw that there was a rarity of it. And at some point, I know there will be a point where building surveyors will be more required, because it's a very much a skill that could become obsolete if it's not properly promoted. So that's what kind of made me get into that, because I like a bit of a challenge. I like to get stuck in. And also the thing that kind of drew me to it was that I was told you'll be looked at as a building doctor. So I thought, rather than being an actual real doctor checking blood, I can check the blood or the bodies of the building. So that was also, that's what sold me, to be honest. So yes, I'm now a building surveyor or doctor, however you want to call it.
And can you tell us the difference between a building doctor and a quantity surveyor?
Well, as we say, myself and my manager have this argument on a daily basis, because he's actually qualified as a QS. They measure. We actually have to understand what the elements are and how they come together, and then they will measure what it is that we do. Even though he says traditionally that's not what it is, I'm explaining to him this is how the new breed of QSs are. So yes, the building surveyors are a bit more up there for knowledge.
Thanks, Nicole.
No
and then finally we come through to Alex. So I think you initially started working quite by chance in construction, didn't you? So what was it that appealed to you?
Yeah, I fell upon it really. A friend of mine got me a job with a property development firm, and it was the acquisition of properties, converting those properties, and then the council would lease them back from the private property developer. And I just found it really interesting. I think, as Nicole said in her sort of snippet of the video, it is like an onion. There's so many different layers to it. You've got the on-site stuff, which we all know about, but you've got the clerical side and the management side and the surveying side. And yeah, I just found it really interesting, and it stuck with me. And I'm 17 years later, I'm doing it for myself.
Excellent. And have you noticed much change over those 17 years?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest change is probably health and safety. So any principal contractor that works anywhere in the country, but certainly in London and in Surrey, where we've got our head offices, health and safety is paramount, and it's the front of the agenda for anything that we do, everything that we do from day to day on site to high level, and rightly so. We've got a great safety record, as have a lot of the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 contractors. Their health and safety is fantastic now. And I think probably technology as well. What we see now, certainly in the last 5 years, is a huge shift in construction with Android phones, mobile phones and apps, and the automation of physical tasks that we didn't have before. Those are probably the two biggest changes.
Thanks, Alex. So that gives you an introduction to our panelists. So if we now start sort of looking at what myths we'd like to see busted. So Nicole, do you want to kick off with a myth that you want to see busted?
That women shouldn't be in construction. We'll have to start with that because, as we've said,
today,
and I know, yes, and Beth's also mentioned rightly as well, that we as women bring different types of attributes in terms of being nourishing to a project. So we will nourish it from start to finish, whereas a man might not pay attention to detail as much as we do. So I just think just the myth that women can't hold their own in the industry, because we've seen it plenty of times. Again, there's a number of now more progressively growing CEOs that are becoming women, handling projects. They are bringing it and spinning it on a different light as well, because I think where you've got that nature kind of nurturing maternal instinct, we deal with things differently. So we tend to make sure that not only the rapport between us and clients are intact, but that everybody that's in part of the actual contract itself are comfortable and understanding of what is happening. Because I think that tends to get slipped through the ranks. And when that slips through the ranks, you kind of miss the overall objective sometimes. So I think it's just something that women can do that men necessarily, not say they can't do, but don't take pride in doing as much.
Alex, do you want to counteract that?
No. I think,
you know better, that's why, Alex.
no, I was actually listening to what you said then, and toxic masculinity was certainly, I'm talking probably more sort of 10 plus years ago, was something that we suffered from in the construction industry. But if I could just get more women into my business at grassroots level, but also throughout, the different trades, throughout project management, I think that we would have a more wholesome, a more productive, a better rounded company. And it's my company, and that's what we want. But when we advertise, we just don't see it. And I think any woman coming for an interview has automatically got an advantage, because I've never been able to understand why it is still, and less so nowadays, definitely, but still a male-dominated environment. Doesn't make any sense to me. I come from Yellow Pages Coca-Cola background before I did construction, and it's 50-50 there if it's anything. So yeah, there is no reason for it, and hopefully I'll see that change, sooner rather than later.
Thanks,
I
Alex.
think, even though you're saying, sorry to think, on the back of what you said, Alex, I think more so just for me, being a woman and trying to get into the industry, I think it's more so something that Aisha touched on in the video, is that there's nothing to see that's relatable. If we can't relate to seeing females in these roles, we don't expect that we will be able to accomplish that. So then that's why you just avoid it, because you go for what you know you can get. So I think it's just maybe just trying to find ways to advertise that women can receive and be responsive to.
Absolutely, I agree. And I would like to catch that because we are quite proud to say that we have a 25% female staff, not only overall in the company, but also on site. And
Brilliant.
It's really interesting to see, especially when you're on big projects, you have other trades, other teams there, and we are the dominating part when it comes to females on site, and that's so great to see. And I think it's a really like an awakening for other trades as well to actually see, and as we say, also like to have these role models on site. And I'm working now together with our site manager, or female site managers, to hopefully that we can introduce things like that in schools, that they can just like have a chat with school children. And we also always emphasize when we have internships that we have female candidates as well, and really promote that. So we have actually, if we have 2 interns, I make sure it's definitely 50-50. And that has been something that I think or in the industry hasn't been done over the past years, but I think there will be a change, because it is so important to really, really, make it possible for women to work in the industry, and even coming from a side. And there are such great also support systems like Women in Construction, for example, available, where they actually train people, they give them CSCS cards, kind of like really put the word out there with employers. And we have actually worked with them a couple of times and hired via Women in Construction. And every time I have a role, I make sure I'm gonna send a job description also to them over, so they actually see it. But this is something, yes, it needs to come from the employer side. They need to show that they really want to stress that women are welcomed, and that we are open for them.
Thanks, Elisa. And is it different in Germany? Obviously, you work for a German company. Is there more parity between male and female in Germany?
I think they have exactly the same problem.
Okay.
No, it's across the industry. Obviously, for our headquarters in Germany, we have quite a lot of architects working in design, which are female actually. But overall, they have definitely the same problems, and they're working on it, hopefully, as well.
Okay, thank you. And Beth, have you had any sort of challenges being a woman on site that you've incurred so far?
Yeah, definitely. It's a challenge. It is a challenge, but it's one that I knew was going to happen, and one that I was really prepared to take on. But yeah, I mean, it's mostly been really, really positive. Obviously, Morgan Sindall as a company is so supportive. And if ever I was to make, a complaint about anything bad happening on site, I know that I would be taken seriously. Thankfully, nothing. That people are lovely in construction. I think a lot of sorry, I'm rambling, but I think a lot of the comments that are made not with malice. Like everyone that I've met on the construction site is absolutely lovely, and they really want me to do well, and they really want me to succeed. So I know that anything that could have been read wrong needs to sort of be taken with a pinch of salt sometimes. But I would encourage people to really, get involved, because that's the only way we're going to change it. And just also furthering Nicole's point with what women can bring to the table, I think is so important to have such a mix, because as you say, women bring a different aspect that men don't, and men bring an aspect that women don't. There are my male colleagues that deal with situations that I know that I would be absolutely dreadful at. So it's so important to have such a balance between men and women, and yeah, everyone really. But yeah, I would say it's mostly good, so don't worry too much about getting involved.
I think there's great camaraderie within the sector, and yeah, I think we've all got a duty to sort of challenge when people aren't displaying the right behaviours, because that's the only way that the industry will change, if we're all prepared to stand up. We've got a question in the chat for Alex from Amanda Walker. So, do you think exploring recruitment agencies, I feel the construction companies need to widen and change their recruitment process?
So we partner with one recruitment agency, and they deal with all of our recruitment needs. And what we do is give them a specification of who we're looking for, the attributes they need, any qualifications, any specific tickets or not, as the case may be. And all we get offered is generally men, guys to apply for the roles. And I guess that's because the pool that the recruitment agency are working from is we can't specify that we want a woman, I don't think, but I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with doing that. But yeah, we just don't get offered it. I think the point that's been made a couple of times is it's almost at a grassroots level. People need to see women in construction doing construction, and that message needs to be spread, which is what all the women here are doing. And I just wonder how that can be taken to the next level and really you know, given to kids in schools, as Elisa touched on, you know, male and female, you know, it's an option for both of you. I'm not sure if that answers the question or not, but we choose from the pool that we're given. But recruitment agencies that we deal with, how much they do to promote, you know, both sexes, I don't know, but certainly the vast majority of CVs that come across my desk are for men, you know.
I think sometimes we need to challenge what our requirements are. So do they need to have X amount of experience? Do they need to have certain qualifications? I accept that, you know, certain health and safety qualifications are fundamental, but there might be other things that aren't necessarily as essential.
And may I add, the industry in itself, what is ahead of us, the future of construction, it really is a labor shortage we are going to face. And that is something where if we only rely on the male market, we will never gonna tackle that. And that is why it's so important to open up that market and make it more available to women and attractive more to women. And because that is actually the labor that we so desperately need, and the talent that is lying in there is incredible.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I will apologize. I've got building works going on. I don't know why they would start at 5:30, but just to touch on what Elisa just said, I do agree exactly what you're saying in terms of that, because I think where we know that there's a problem, there is a shortage of skills, what companies need to start focusing on is actually minimizing, so dropping the requirements to actually let people enter into the companies and training them and molding them, so that in that way we can mold the skill force that we do have here. I think that's what we need to start doing, is investing in people. A lot of the construction industry, I'm not saying they don't do that, but I think they've been so focused on the other goals. So yes, we need to put up these buildings, but we need people to put these buildings up. So I think they need to take the time to actually seek people and then invest in those people to train them. And in that way, it not only does it give back to the construction industry, but they give back in the sense that they're meeting the supply and demand.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. And I think Alex mentioned earlier on about how technology had changed, and people traditionally probably think that construction isn't very technological, but it is, and it's getting far more so these days. So anybody got any examples of how technology has changed in their role since they've been in the sector?
Absolutely. Great example is we are, in combination with our sustainability goals, trying to go paperless. And really, obviously, also the pandemic, as everybody knows, has thrown us into the deep end of kind of being connected. Part of the office staff was able to work from home, but as I always say, you can't build a building if you're working from home. So you have to actually go out there and do it. So construction is essential working. I'm not too sure. I still feel like you still need to go out there and have people on site, which is also a great thing, actually, a great part of the job. But yeah, in terms of technology, we introduced now having tablets and working off a remote server, basically in the cloud, so people can actually upload pictures they take on site with the tablet. They have a pen, so they can make drawings, make amendments, put comments in, directly from site, can send it up to the site office or to our engineers in Germany directly from site. And it's a much faster movement. And it really helps with the quality and the effectiveness of the work. And to be honest, BIM modeling is obviously something that is really big in our industry nowadays. So technology is moving quickly, and CAD designers are by now, I would say, a stable in the industry as well. So there's so many, also if you're tech interested, so many different jobs and opportunities where people actually have technology available nowadays. And that means also that women can actually to kind of make a loop there. You don't need to be physically, you know, like strong to work in construction, because with technology, there's actually possibilities that support you there, and you don't need to do the physical part of the labor all the time.
Thanks, Elisa. Beth, have you got any examples of technology advances?
Yeah, I think the same as what Elisa was saying, really. I can't say what's changed, given that I've only been in the industry for 5 months, I'd say 5 months now. But yeah, we use tablets. We have, Morgan Sindall has its own quality assurance systems where you can access them. It's called SimsGo. You can go out on site, you can check the quality of everything, you can check it against drawings, and it's all there for you, which is really good. And then, yeah, it links up to your laptop, so when you get back into the office, it's all there instantly. So yeah, kind of just exactly what Elisa was saying.
And Nicole, from your perspective, on your side?
Yeah, I would. I think for us, it's been more so, before COVID, we actually had all of the digital platforms and stuff, because it's the council. They've always tried to promote flexible and smart working ahead of time to meet the sustainability requirements. So I think for us, it was just more so through the COVID restrictions, rather than having too many people on site, those that wasn't imperative on site would take part in a FaceTime call. So we use more of that kind of connectivity, the use of WhatsApp to speak with residents rather than going out straight away, just to make sure we protected the operatives and the residents. It was only imperative to go out if it was deemed an emergency in case of special, so making good of electrics or something that was really imperative for someone to be on site. So I think that's what we tried to do, just to protect the public.
And I know that some companies use drones, so certainly sort of the rail industry, to check, you know, track side, which is far safer than having to actually physically go on the track. So there's things like that that is happening. Alex, did you want to make any comment on technology?
It's difficult, isn't it? When I started, everything was done by paper, and now literally I have an app on my phone and I can go into any job and I've got every single drawing in there, every single drawing register, up-to-date photos literally from today, request for information, incidents on site, staff timesheets. It is the way forward, and I think any younger generation that comes through will expect that, probably excel in that, and that will be to their benefit, you know. And the idea is, of course, you know, is to go paperless and to be completely online, you know, to reduce your carbon footprint and reduce what you're doing in that respect. But that's the change I've seen. It blows my mind, frankly. But yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure in another 5-10 years it will be as much again. Different.
Yeah, well, they talk about now everybody having cameras on their hard hats and walking around site. So site is documented, having less people on site, and that works as a you know, that's sort of a working progress to bring up questions, queries, and less need for social contacts, but also a record of everything that's being done. So yeah, it's definitely the future.
And that's also more environmentally friendly if people don't have to, not so many people have to travel to site.
Exactly.
Carbon footprint as well, which is obviously key.
Yeah, exactly. You've got, I'm sure some of the guys who work for the bigger firms will tell you, you've got fingerprint IDs to log you in and out of site. And, you know, in the end, that will come down to, you know, a COVID testing, that will be borne out to COVID testing or any other testing that you need. And yeah, it's a good thing.
We've got a question from Shenry asking what types of tools or software is being used for project managing the project? What new technology? Does anybody want to take that one?
Yeah, I can talk about it. Sorry.
Go on.
Just on our site, we're obviously using SimsGo, this technology that I spoke about before, but that's available to us as a principal contractor, but also all of our subcontractors use that same platform. And then also in terms of communications and drawings, we have 2 platforms. We have a site and we have 4 projects, and we use those to sort of make amendments to drawings, and everyone accesses it in real time. And then obviously good old-fashioned email. That's kind of it, really.
Thanks. Nicole, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, for us, in terms of project management, what we tend to use is MS Projects. We use Pro Contract, which allows us to communicate with all our contractors. And we also use emails, the phone, just anything to try and avoid meeting in person or paper if it's unnecessary.
And I know there are some other planning, programming tools, project management tools out there, aren't they? So Astra, amongst others. I can't think of the others off the top of my head. And there's a question from Amanda. There must be something about being an Amanda tonight, because we've got myself and 2 other Amandas that have asked questions. So Amanda Spurrier has asked, I think alongside raising the profile of the industry for young people, it's getting the vacancies in front of them in a timely manner to build their confidence, so there are opportunities as they work through their final years of college and sixth form. And I quite agree with you, Amanda. I think a lot of the issues is sort of tying up the people that want to work in the sector with those, with the vacancies. And there is a fairly new platform called Talent View, which was set up, I think last year, by the Construction Leadership Council, and is an opportunity for companies to promote both sort of first jobs, apprenticeships, graduate opportunities, and work experience placements. So, but I don't think that has been publicised to the likes of the schools and colleges particularly well at the moment. So that's something that I'm trying to promote. I don't know what other people have think about that question. Anybody else wants to come in?
Yeah,
well, I would say that.
Oh,
Alex, go ahead.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Yeah, I would have said we have due to our project being in London in different boroughs, so we work quite a lot with the local councils. We have also we use the opportunity there to promote not only apprenticeships, but yeah, also any kind of like job applications that are coming in, and they even pre-screen them for us, so it's really handy as an employer. I would definitely recommend it to any employer to work with the local council. And yeah, so definitely I would say check out the website, check out what the council is doing in terms of apprenticeships, and talk with them, because they have quite experienced people there as well, so that's really good to see as well.
Alex?
I was just going to say that I know that a lot of the, from experience, that a lot of the tier 1 contractors have each year large intakes of clerical management, you know, sort of traineeships, and they do that. But I think almost turning that process on its head, I'm very much a small to medium-sized contractor. I was a small contractor, principal contractor, and I think there are hundreds, if not thousands of us out there with turnovers between, you know, 1 and 10 million, who don't really get involved in too much in the apprenticeship side, and could easily be set up for it, could financially benefit from it, and could get great people on board, but never really take the time to understand it or think of it as a way of procuring good staff by going into sixth forms or universities and saying, look, we're a small contractor, but we're growing. And if you come on board with us now, this is our vision for the next 5, 10, 15 years. So I think that if you could get out to more sort of small principal contractors, then that could be a really productive route, you know.
And that's something where the Mayor's Construction Academy can help sort of guide people like yourself, Alex, in the way through in recruiting an apprentice, and where you can go, what funding's available for you, and that sort of thing, and help put you in touch with schools and colleges, because sometimes it's I don't know where to start.
Yeah. No, absolutely, I would agree with that. And you have been very helpful. And I just wonder how you could get more businesses of my sort of size, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's when the Mayor's Construction Academy was set up. That was one of our, we were trying to focus on SMEs, but the trouble is, because there's not many people within the SME business, you're all too busy doing the work to actually spend time sort of coming to meet us. So that's one of the challenges, but we haven't quite cracked that nut. But if you've got any other suggestions, Alex,
yeah, well, I think we're all members of, we all read probably the similar sort of construction type magazines, Construction Manager and things like that. A lot of us are members of the Chartered Institute of Builders. I'm sure some of the guys here will be members of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, as well as are, you know, some construction firms. But I think that's probably just advertising, you know. But I think there is a network that binds us, you know, several networks that bind us all together, or publications, you know.
Yeah. Okay, we've got about just over 10 minutes left. If anybody else has got any more questions, then please do put them in the chat or in the Q&A.
I just wanted to add
sorry
to interrupt. I just wanted to add to the conversation around encouraging young people into the industry. I think that obviously encouraging young people into the industry is really, really important. But I think another important thing to consider is encouraging those that are in an industry and might fancy a career change. Because I think construction, like speaking from my experience, obviously I have zero knowledge of construction, I have zero experience of construction. So I don't think you necessarily need to have, well, obviously it's good to have young people, but people that might, you know, be unhappy with their current career, is definitely a feasible thing to sort of switch into the construction industry and consider it. So maybe also encouraging that element as well might be an interesting thing to consider.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, so just off the back of what Beth said, I do agree that that is imperative. But I think one of the main things that we kind of have to also appreciate is that a lot of people don't know how to apply. So there might be the jobs there, but they don't know how to attack the application to the point where they will be successful. So I don't think it's always the point where young people or older people looking for work don't necessarily know how to change shifts and enter into the industry. I think it's more so learning to understand what they need to do to actually meet to the requirements to be interview at the interview stages, because some people can portray themselves well on paper but not necessarily to do so in an interview, and then some people the other way around, they're really bad at applications but would be excellent in an interview. So I think as well it might be working in partnerships with the younger providers or whatever it is, whether it's firms, to make them have that platform available for people, and then that way we might see more people coming into the construction industry.
Could I add there and maybe give that question back to you, Nicole, because that's quite interesting for me to hear. We obviously at the moment we're looking for interns. We would like to start internships and promote that and site management for 2022, but it's still open for applications, and I promoted it on LinkedIn. But obviously speak also with universities there. For site management, that is because we're looking more into the graduate scheme, but also obviously we want to later on look into work placements and things. So what kind of platforms do you feel like we should use actually?
Well, I guess it depends on the audience that you're looking for, because we have to bear in mind now, as it is going to the digital ages, you've got the different types of social media. You could be using Instagram, just short clips, as what Amanda said earlier. Videos can be quite effective to people to want to reach out and to allow them to have a connection. Because the whole point of people wanting to be comfortable enough to apply for something is they want to feel like, I can see myself doing this. They can read something and think, I can't see myself doing that. I don't understand that. I don't even know what that's asking of me. So there's all those things. And then that becomes quite daunting. And then that's why people tend to stray away. There's no point of me applying, because if I apply, I'm not going to get it anyway. So they automatically set themselves up to fail. So I think if we do it in the way that we're promoting something that, yes, is professional, but it reaches out to them in a kind of more subtle way, then that way it kind of draws them in to at least take the opportunity to consider it.
I also think sometimes the application process can be quite daunting to some people. So if there's, I used to be an HR manager for a tier one contractor, so I've been on the other side. But if you have an application form asking lots of questions, some people can just sort of look at that and think, oh no, I can't be bothered, that's too much for me, and won't do it. So I think it's trying to be innovative in the way in your recruitment process and how you do it. I think that's another thing to look at.
Yeah,
trying to encourage people.
That's really great feedback. Absolutely, yes. And I saw, obviously, we're working also with principal contractors, and there's a lot of like social values and targets, and they achieve quite a lot there in the local community wherever new projects are coming up. And I've been, for example, invited because one of our principal contractors put out a interview kind of training at the school, and that was really interesting for me as well as for the students there. And I think if even other trade contractors could do that as well, go into schools, connect with the local community, that is something where we could all work together.
Yeah, thank you. So we've got about 5 minutes left. So if we just sort of go round the virtual room, and if you can all just sort of say a couple of things about what you love about construction or your role, and what attracted you to it. Alex, do you want to kick off first?
Thank you. What do I love about construction is that it's really varied. There are very few barriers to entry. Anybody can do it, just depends on what level, the experience that you have. Life experience and qualifications depends on what level you come in at. But if you're 100% committed, you can gain the competency that you need to succeed. And yeah, I just love it because it's really varied. Every single day is different. And yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Elisa?
Yes, I think I could only agree with Alex. It's really about the variety of things. There's so many things you can do. And even as I'm part of the office, I go out on site, I put my hard hat on and walk through sites, and I love it, really. And it's what I love about construction and working on construction, it's tangible. So you can really afterwards, you can go through London and you can show your family and your friends, I worked on this building and I've been up there on the rooftop before it was built and things like that. So it's really an amazing industry, and it's a stable industry. There's a future in construction for everybody. So if you really look out for a new interesting career opportunity that is like gives you stability in the future, construction is definitely the way to move forward.
Thanks, Elisa. Beth?
Yeah, I'd say exactly the same as both Alex and Elisa. It's varied, it's interesting, it's for everyone. If you have a slight inkling that it might be for you, try it out because you might just like it.
Thank you. And lastly, Nicole?
Yeah, so I have to agree with what everyone else says. And I think for me, the main thing I like about it is that we're giving back. So as part of construction, what we build, people get to use it and they get to benefit from it. And it helps, or we don't realize, but it's very much linked to our well-being. However something is constructed reflects on how we feel. And I like that I have that sort of impact with others. So yeah, that's what I've got to say.
Brilliant. And I'll add mine. So similar to Elisa, in that I love going around the sites and going up to the top. And when I worked for a tier one contractor, they were building the aquatic swimming pool. When I actually got near the end of the project, to go on a site tour and went up into the roof and looked down at the pool from the sort of through one of the light holes before the lights were put in. That was one of my highlights. And the variety, as other people have said, but also seeing people come in at whether it's apprenticeship level, graduate level, other levels, and seeing them progress through their career. I really get a buzz out of that. So hopefully those of you that are listening and watching this have been inspired to find out a bit more about construction and built environments if you haven't done previously. Hopefully we've convinced you that, you know, women in construction isn't a myth, that we can have it, and that technology, there's loads of other myths that we could have covered, but we haven't had the time to do so. So I think the takeaway from today is it's varied, it's tangible, it's for everyone. If you've got the commitments, you've got the passion, then go give it a go. If you want to find out more, then please contact me through, and I'll put my email address in the chat. So MCA support at LSBU, and we can talk to you about work experience, finding the right course for you, putting you in touch with some of these wonderful people or the employers, helping you find the right pathway. Or if you just want to talk about it, you're not quite sure what's right for you, we can help give you that guidance. So I'd like to say thank you to everybody in the panel today for their time, and thank you to the audience for your time as well. I'm just going to put the email in the chat. Does anybody else want to add anything before?
Thank you, and good luck with your future career progressions.
Yeah, well said. Good luck,
Yeah,
guys.
definitely. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.